guys were like, yeah, what about it? Yeah.
So confirming that all this can be on record, are you okay being on camera?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What is your name and position within the university?
Sure. I'm Christy McKittrick, and I am an associate clinical lecturer. That's my actual title. But in addition to that, I'm a full-time teaching professor. So I don't do any research. I don't have a research part of my job. I'm never going to be tenured. But I do a lot of service. So I also serve as the lead departmental advisor for strategic communication, which is almost 500 students. I do a few other things, like I lead Inside Chicago, and I'm also the advisor for PRSSA, which is the student organization of our national professional organization, kind of like SBJ if you're in journalism.
Nice. How do you define PR and marketing, and how has it changed in the past 10 years?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and that's something that everybody would define differently. I consider PR and marketing to be very, very close cousins, if not siblings. I think there are things that marketing does that we don't, but I think there's things that strategic communication or media and communication do that marketing doesn't. So I like to think that marketing is maybe more on the math side, certainly here at Miami. Our Farmer School of Business is a very quantitative program. Not all business schools are across the country, but ours is. But I think of marketing, like a marketing degree, specifically doing communication and also the important messaging, branding, but also I would see them looking more at like the 4 Ps or whatever, so product, coming up with new products, packaging, price. That isn't something that strategic communications does much of. And how strategic communications is different is that we're the writers, we're more the liberal education. We have our fingers and toes into so many disciplines, psychology and slam and professional writing and journalism and political science and so many different areas, because we manage the relationship between a message sender and a message receiver. And so that could be a company that's selling me a car, just like marketing, or it could be a government that is trying to get me to take a vaccine, or it could be a nonprofit that's trying to get me to donate, or it could be a candidate trying to get me to vote. And that relationship between message sender and message receiver is what strategic communications manages. And so that's branding, it's advertising, it's integrated marketing communication, which is what a lot of people in our industry call strategic communication in the field, integrated marketing communications. It's everything that would take a message, create a message that's going to resonate with the audience, and then also be the listening focus to bring it on back, to bring that feedback back to the company. I would assume marketing does that, but I don't know how much of that kind of feedback loop they have.
Right. How do you teach your students the best way to utilize their PR tools?
Oh, that's what we have 39 credits to do, right? The best way to utilize them. I think the ultimate thing is you just always have to think about the audience. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you've got to speak to an audience. And if you are on social media but you don't have an audience, you're just yelling into the void. So you can have the greatest social media campaign ever, but if nobody's there listening, who cares, right? And so it's always about thinking about the audience, thinking about what's affecting the audience. What does the audience need? The audience doesn't care about your company or your NGO or your government. They don't care what you need. They care what they need. What keeps them up at night? What, fills them with fear? What are their dreams? What are their aspirations? And then how can we as companies or organizations, how can we help them achieve that? So if they need a car and I sell cars, well, then that's one way to help them achieve their dream and their need to transportation. But at the same time, maybe their dream is to get their get more education. Well, then the university would try to fill the needs of their audience. So I think the biggest thing for strategic communication always starts with who you're talking to, and what they need and how to talk to them. I mean, there's certain ways to talk to audiences. I mean, a 17-year-old girl hangs out in different media spaces and resonates with a different message than a 78-year-old man. And so understanding all kind of that segmentation and things too. And then using all the tools that we can, the toolkit, which, as I said, is advertising, PR, paid, owned media.
So what's the most impactful tool for reaching students?
For reaching students, do you mean in terms of being a teacher, or do you mean in terms of like communicating with students?
I'd say communicating with students.
So yeah, I'm teaching a capstone this semester that is doing just that. I think one of maybe the most underrated but very effective ways to reach students is through the classroom. So working with professors, if a professor makes an announcement at the beginning of the class, he or she has, or they have a captive audience. And so they have a lot of power and a lot of influence of, being able to announce things to communicate to students. Other than that, I know students are on social media, but frankly, they're not following our channel. So MJF has a channel, Stratcom used to have a channel, we used to have all of those. And if nobody's listening, if nobody's there on the other side, it doesn't matter how great your campaign is or your message or how important it is. Somebody's got to be listening. So I think we have to use, a really multidisciplinary approach. And frankly, a PowerPoint slide in a class or a flyer on the wall is still a pretty good way to reach students.
Right.
I mean, I think we've got some great avenues like the Miami Student and things like that as well.
For sure. How does PR play into student organizations, recruitment, and retention?
For organizations, I think it's huge because, again, an organization is only going to be around if it fills a need, right? If nobody feels that there's a need, then the organization either founders or goes extinct, and we've seen that at Miami too. So I think it really comes down to if you're selling something that people want, they will buy it. And I teach the media law and ethics class, and we talk a lot about what's called the marketplace of ideas, right? And so you set up your table and you hawk your wares, and whether you do that digitally or you do that with a postcard, however you do it, if someone is, you've got to be able to offer something they need. And if it's not something they need, they're not going to buy, and your organization's going to suffer for that with recruitment and retention. So it's always about keeping your finger on the pulse of what's needed. Right? You can provide all kinds of stuff, but if nobody needs it or wants it, who cares?
Right. And then how do you see PR and marketing changing within the next 10 years?
Yeah, you did kind of ask that question earlier, and I didn't kind of mention that. Well, AI. I mean, AI is the what do you call that? The groundswell. It's not quite as big as what the internet was in the 90s, certainly, and social media after that, because the internet has changed everything. So in the last 20 years, the internet has made a huge difference. I mean, we don't even think about some of the things we thought about before. And I'm, of the generation that I was on the internet when the internet wasn't fun, right? There was nothing out there. Nobody was out there. So the internet was the sea change for marketing and communication. But I think that a wave is going to be AI. I've been doing a lot of training in AI, and I've also started implementing it a lot in my classes, because I think that students need to know how to use it. They're going to be expected to use it. Like I said, I lead the Inside Chicago program, and I'm on the board of Cincinnati PRSA, which is our professional organization. And I talk to professionals all the time, for students to get internships and stuff like that, and they all say you're going to have to use it. So the fact that we stick our head in the sand here a lot, I think, is doing students a disservice. But we don't quite know how to navigate that yet, because to be a really good user of AI, you've got to be able to manage and massage and adapt what you get. You can't just use it as is, because frankly, a lot of stuff I use AI, and frankly, a lot of stuff I get is wrong, right? So you've got to learn how to do that. You've got to be able to recognize what's good. So how do I recognize good writing if I've never practiced good writing? And I think that's the real challenge. And my other challenge, I guess, that's where I see it going. And I just think that we are all going to be 1,000 times more productive, and that's what the new reports are saying. They used to say 3 to 10 times more productive, but now they're saying you're going to be 1,000 times more productive. But what does that mean? That means you only need one for every 1,000, because now one person can do the work of 1,000 people, and I think that will be something your generation is going to have to struggle with. But in teaching people to use it, we've got to let them know what's good about it. And frankly, a lot of stuff that AI does is garbage. It's pulling in biased information, because there's a lot of biased information against underrepresented groups, women and ethnic minorities, and all of that. And I think we have to teach media literacy so that our students can be the teachers when they go into the agencies and into the corporations, to help people understand why you just can't use AI.